I'm going to say something that's going to surprise you. You ready for this? You should be snacking more. You need to be snacking more. I know what you're thinking. How can you tell me to snack more? I'm gonna get fat. Here's why. I've discovered NatureBox.com. NatureBox gives me hundreds of delicious snacks. I mean delicious. And I don't feel guilty about eating them because they're better for me. They're natural, with zero trans fat and zero high fructose corn syrup. You'll even find snacks that are low on sugar, non-GMO, and without gluten. And they ship for free. You know that cranky moment around 3 p.m. when you're ready to tear into anything? Here's what I do. I grab PB&J granola from NatureBox, or baked sweet potato fries, or sweet blueberry almonds. No more hungriness, no more crankiness. Now I'm going to make you really happy. Ready? If you try NatureBox.com right now, you're going to get 50% off your first box. Just go to NatureBox.com/SBNation. You should be snacking, but you have to snack smarter. Stay full, stay strong. Do what I do. Go to NatureBox.com/SBNation to get 50% off your first month's box. NatureBox.com/SBNation. That's NatureBox.com/SBNation.
No risk it, no biscuit.
Coming from the Arizona desert, presented by SBNation.com. For Arizona Cardinals fans, by Arizona Cardinals fans, with outsider and insider's perspective, this is Revenge of the Birds. Hello, this is Revenge of the Birds Radio. This is your host, Jess Root, as we are previewing this week the preseason matchup between the Arizona Cardinals and the Houston Texans to kick off the preseason for both teams. And to join us tonight, today, thank you for listening. As always, whether it is live or via download at RevengeOfTheBirds.com or on Blog Talk Radio. Thank you for listening. And we have a special treat for you today. Again, this is brought to you by Audible.com. This segment brought to you by Audible.com, where you can get a free audio download by signing up and trying it out. Try out the service, audibletrial.com/Revenge of the Birds, and you can get yourself a free month of service, download, and a free audio book that you get to keep if you don't like the service, to give it a test it out. And today we have Matt Weston from Battle Red Blog, the SB Nation Houston, Texas blog. And we're going to talk to him a little bit about the Houston Texans. We saw them, the Arizona Cardinals saw them last season. And even though they were having not a particularly good season, they did put up a fight. But now they've had an off season to recuperate. They had themselves the top pick in the NFL draft this year in Jadeveon Clowney. And they have a new quarterback. And let's find out a little bit about the Texans as the Cardinals face off against them. Of course, the preseason doesn't mean a whole lot, but we still want to see what they've got. So tell us, Matt. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Jess. Thanks for having me on today.
All right. So let's talk Texans. Run us down the off season so far. What's been the good and the bad, the surprising and the disappointing thus far that happened in the off season for the Houston Texans?
Yeah, I think pretty much all of us Texans fans really enjoyed the offseason this year, just because the season was so terrible after watching them lose 14 straight games. We were all kind of ready to get rid of that and then start seeing the team improve and see how they changed. But I think it was pretty much what we expected because they didn't have very much cap room at all to play with. Most of their contracts were tied up in top free agents like Andre Johnson, Foster, Cushing, those sorts of guys. And, they have Jonathan Joseph and Myers who come off the books next year. So most of their signings they were doing is just more depth things, finding guys that fill in holes like a nose tackle, safety, cornerback. And they, most money they gave out was Jared Graham, I think they gave him $4 million a year, and that's the biggest contract they gave out. So it's good that they were able to keep the long-term cap flexibility and also the availability to fill in holes, too, from there. So we enjoyed that. It was also... we also saw a regime change. We saw the end of the Kubiak era and end of Wade Phillips' defense and all that. And we saw that, Bill O'Brien come in and Romeo Crennel and a whole new regime too as well. And that pretty much became stale and stagnant with the offense. Last season what we saw with Kubiak, and they pretty much peaked in 2011 whenever they won playoff game against the Bengals, and the same thing in 2012 as well. But other than that, I mean, the draft was great as far as having the first-round pick and taking Clowney, who's everything we've seen, he's just going to be a monster so far. But the one thing that was kind of a bummer was just not addressing the quarterback position at all and just getting stopgap and Ryan Fitzpatrick. And especially most of us on the side, we really love Bridgewater too. I mean, he's going to be the best quarterback in this class. I guarantee it. And he was sitting there at 32, and all they do is probably give a fourth-round pick to Seattle and move up one spot and take Bridgewater. And if they'd done that, I think they probably win about 10 games this year. But they didn't, and so we're stuck there with Fitzpatrick for 1 year, and hopefully they address it next year. But I mean, everything was great except for just the quarterback thing. That was really the only thing that was disappointing as far as our offseason went.
So tell us about the difference from Gary Kubiak now to Bill O'Brien, from Wade Phillips on the defensive side to Romeo Crennel. How different is the approach to the new coaching staff? Is it a drastic change on the offense? Let's talk offense first. How different is the offensive outlook this year as opposed to last year, and what was the problem a season ago outside of Matt Schaub just losing it?
Yeah, I think our offense last year was a combination of the two. I think part of it is the offense became stagnant, but the thing is that if your offense isn't executing the plays right, it doesn't matter at all what offense you're running. I mean, they're just blowing blocks. Matt Schaub can throw the ball farther than 15 yards. It pretty much became trapped in a box, and it's like watching a middle school offense every Sunday. Just watching run, get maybe 2 or 3 yards each time, and then you'd be stuck in 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, and then that's when the bad things, the pick sixes started to happen. But I think with O'Brien, the difference in his offense, I think it's going to be a lot similar in a way, except because their base package, it seems like we're going to have Johnson and Hopkins from the outside. We're going to have 2 tight ends, and then we're going to be single back as well. And that's pretty much what Kubiak ran during his time, but I think the passing attack is going to be a lot more complex, a lot more fun to watch. It's not going to be pretty much just based off the zone run game, going off the play action. I think they're going to throw the ball a lot more than they did last year. And I think also the mentality is a lot different with O'Brien than what we saw with Kubiak. Kubiak's kind of more of like an intelligent, quieter guy. I mean, he got angry and stuff here and there, but it wasn't kind of like what we've seen with O'Brien. I mean, O'Brien's fiery. He's kind of a madman from what I've seen. Some of the Mike Deb stuff, he's kind of a lunatic. And, I mean, they just go to work is what you've seen. And it's just a lot of fun to just see, like, something fresh, something new, and then just a completely different attitude change. Because I think, the entire team's trying to stagnate to the act. There's just a lot of loyalty involved. And kind of became stagnant and old. And I think, just that, you just pretty much just kind of, the team just seems a lot more revitalized after last year was. All
right. So do you see the offensive players buying into that personality? When the Arizona Cardinals went from Ken Wisenhunt, Ken was very much a player's coach, but he was much more even-keeled, to Bruce Arians, another very good player's coach, but he is fiery, he'll cuss you out. Are the players buying into that, or is it just they're just going to work?
I mean, from what I've seen, I think they have, just especially because everybody's practicing. I know, Andre Johnson sat out, but after he sat down, met with O'Brien, he came out and started practicing right away. I mean, even Arian Foster, after his back injury, he's been practicing since day one. I mean, they've all been out there, and they've all been out there working. So I think they, after last year, after losing 14 straight games, I'll probably end up saying that a lot during this entire podcast, but I think after, just getting that bad taste out of the mouth, and they're just excited. As you're playing, it seems like just playing against somebody different. It seems like he knows exactly what he's doing. Like there's a plan in place, and I think they just enjoy come out there and go and work again. And it has changed. And I mean, really, the only example I can give you, because I'm not a walker, is Andre Johnson coming out after holding out after he met with O'Brien. He changed his mind fairly quickly after that happened.
Talk defense then. How similar, how different are the defenses that Wade Phillips schemed to what it looks like Romeo Crennel will be doing? Is there going to be a major shift? I know the basic alignments are the same, but how is that going to look as opposed to last season? The Cardinals went through the same thing, going from Ray Horton to now Todd Bowles just a season ago.
Yeah, I mean, they're both 3-4 defenses. They're just a little bit different. Wade Phillips is a lot more attacking. I mean, it's just you have this gap's yours, and you go after that and you get it. And every player is just pretty much lined up. One guy's A gap, one guy's a B gap, one guy's a C gap, and you have that gap, and that's it. And also with Phillips too, he blitzed a lot. I know Houston blitzed 6 guys or more than anybody in the league did whenever Wade was there these past 3 seasons. And I think with Crennel, I mean, everything I've read and seen is that he's more of a two-gap guy. So instead of having a gap, you're pretty much just trying to eat up two blockers every time. So then linebackers can come and make all the plays. And so your down defensive linemen are pretty much just space eaters who are there. Yeah, and I also think that he's not as aggressive as much with his blitzing. I think he'll do a lot more stunning, a lot more looping. And I think he's just going to blitz, 4 or 5 guys. He's not going to bring 6 or 7 very often. But I think what's going to be interesting as far as the two-gap thing is just what he's going to do with Watt. I would like to see some type of hybrid with Cornell where maybe your nose tackle and your left defensive end two-gap, but then you let Watt just play his own scrimmage style and let him just attack one gap and do what he does best and create havoc in the backfield. But I think the only thing, like I said, Cornell is probably a little bit more stable, a little bit more conservative instead of Phillips, just put your ears back and attack your gap and go get the football. I think that's where the difference in styles are going to be.
Let's talk a little bit about players. The biggest, I guess, one of the biggest things, Matt Schaub's out, and Ryan Fitzpatrick. What's the outlook with Fitzpatrick? The Cardinals saw a lot of him think he'd completely trashed. He completely destroyed the Cardinals secondary and in the game against Tennessee. That was without Tyrann Mathieu. It was the first game back. But tell us, what does Fitzpatrick look like so far? Is he a guy that's just going to be a guy, or do they think they can compete in that division with him at the helm?
Fitzpatrick's just a guy. He's a mediocre quarterback. But the thing about him, this division is just so weak. Tennessee's not very good. Jacksonville isn't very good. Indy, I guess you can say, is good, but they still just have a lot of holes in their roster, and their GM did a terrible job managing their cap room and their money. And Indy's also been very lucky these past 2 years as well. If you look at some of the other stats, had one possession wins and fumble recovery and interceptions that were dropped by the defense and those sorts of things. And so I think in this division, any of these teams can compete just because their schedules are so easy this year, and none of these teams are very good. But Fitzpatrick's just a guy. He's just a stopgap quarterback until they find their guy in the future next year. But the thing about it is that quarterback play is not going to be as bad as it was last year at all. Last year was just the worst year of all time. There's no way Fitzpatrick shouldn't be as bad as Schaub was last year. There's no way Schaub's going to be as bad as he was in Houston last year that he's going to be with Oakland this year. So Fitzpatrick can make some things happen. He's pretty good in the pocket. He can actually take off and run some. His feet are quick. Everything after is he's intelligent. He's grasped LeBron's system fairly quickly. And, he has some accuracy problems. He throws too many interceptions here and there. But, in this division, the schedule and the luck last year, if they have some improved luck and some better quarterback play, they could, win 9 games or so. And they can compete with him. I just don't really see it happening. I think he's just the guy for this year until they find their quarterback next year.
Let's look at the draft class. Obviously, the top of the class, Jadeveon Clowney. How good is he going to be, and how do the Texans plan on using him in year one?
Yeah, that's a good question, Jess. I know I differ than most people on as far as Clowney goes. Everybody's expecting Clowney to just have 15, 16 sacks this year because he's being a lot of one-on-one matchups. He'll be playing a lot off the block as well. My thing with him, he's a freak athlete. And the thing is, he's just so much bigger, faster, and stronger than everybody in college. And then when the NFL, that advantage is going to be mitigated a whole lot because these are the best athletes, and some of the best athletes in the world are your offensive linemen who are right there, and they're just as big, just as strong, just as quick, almost as quick as him. And it's not going to be worlds, way difference in athletic ability whenever Clowney's in the NFL compared to college. And in addition to that, he's moving to outside linebacker. And so what Clowney did whenever he was in college, he used a lot of swim moves, and he just ran through guys. And he won't be able to do that in the NFL, and also a new position. So he's got to learn how to really play the game. He's got to learn how to read an offensive lineman's feet instead of just guessing and taking off the path because he just feels like doing it that way. He has to learn how to learn a counter move, like a rib, spin move back inside. He's got to learn how to deal with double teams a lot better than he did last year. And these are also guys who are weighing 650 pounds together instead of just about 550 or so. And so he's got to learn all these little things like that. So what I'm expecting out there, I'm expecting 7 or 8 sacks. I think you might even see some articles maybe coming out about he may be a bust and that sort of thing. And I think next year's going to be the year where he's just going to blow up and destroy the league. But I think this year is going to be a lot of growing pains for him. As far as to defend the defense, even I really don't even know, and that's pretty much the only thing I'm looking forward to in this NFL season is just having the NFL all 22 and just watching how Cornell uses him and Watt together. It's going to be awesome to see. But they're right now it's penciled in at playing the jack position, which I guess is what Louis McGinnis ran whenever he was in New England. And so he's pretty much just going to be playing strong side outside linebacker. And I think he's probably going to play pass coverage maybe 15-20% of the time. The rest of the time he's playing the run and rushing the passer. And I'm really also looking forward to seeing how they use him in dime and nickel situations and how the use of stunts with him a lot together, how they're able to play next to each other on the defensive line and third down and second and long, that sort of thing too. But I mean, really, I really have no idea how they're going to use him. It's going to be a lot of fun. And the one thing I know is he can play outside linebacker, and they're going to do some really cool things with him, hopefully.
What about the rest of the draft class? Tell us about some of the other rookies, some of the other draft picks that were used, how they'll be used this year, and what sort of impact have they had in the off season, at least the beginning of the training camp.
Yeah, so far the only guy who's really, I guess Clowney's penciled in a star already. Their second-round pick, Sophia, an offensive guard. What's cool about taking a guard in the second round is that, unlike the other positions, if you take a guard or a center in the second round, you're getting one of the best guards or centers in the entire draft because they don't take those guys in the first round. And so they must feel if he can play guard and tackle. I don't like him at tackle that much just because his arms aren't very long and he's not a good puncher. I mean, knows whenever he goes to punch, he lets guys get into him too much. He misses the chest. He grabs outside a little bit too often. And if you're playing offensive tackle and defensive line to get in your chest, you're done. But hopefully he can start left guard this year. But, I mean, he's kind of a weird guy to watch, too, because he'll make a horrible block. And from one play, next play he'll go make the exact same block and he'll just destroy a guy. And he's, inconsistent. He's got to learn how to become more consistent, do the right thing every single play. I think sometimes he can take some plays off as well. But he has really quick feet. He's strong. He plays really low. He's great on double teams. He can pull very well. It's just becoming more of just a professional and just getting all those little problems out of the way and just become more consistent is his biggest thing. I mean, other than that, they took Nix the third in the third round, and I don't even know if he was going to play. I know he was dominating at Notre Dame his junior year, and he has knee problems. He already had microfracture surgery this past offseason. And so we're expecting him to start nose tackle during the year, but he might not even play this year. And we don't even know exactly what's going to happen with him. Most of the draft was just a lot of depth signings where they needed guys. So they, for example, they took Jay Proshaw of Auburn. They took Pagan, a two-gap in defensive end from Alabama. They took Tom Savage to play quarterback. He's just a big, tall, strong-arm guy. He can't do anything else. And if he starts at all for the Texans to play any snaps, that things have gone wrong in Houston. And then they also took some secondary guys too. It's more just take Clowney and then get better on that line of scrimmage and then just fill in holes from there. But I enjoyed the draft. I mean, I know I just wish they took Bridgewater in the second round. They did that. It's been one of the best draft classes. From looking at like a 2-day, from looking at it right away, it'd be one of the best draft classes right away that I've ever seen. But they did it, and they took Sophia instead, who's going to be a good player. But, it's just kind of thought same all season is just fill in the holes, fill in the line of scrimmage, and then go from there.
All right. Obviously, kind of the big story coming out of Houston this offseason more recently is the unhappiness of first Andre Johnson and now Arian Foster. How much of a distraction is the Andre Johnson talk, the Arian Foster talk? What is it? Is it going to be a distraction? In the end, are they going to play and be fine? Are the Texans going to end up moving Johnson?
Yeah, I think with Andre Johnson, I think it was kind of clear. I mean, last year he had some of the worst body language I've seen from a receiver, and he's usually not like that. I mean, you would see him run slants, and he'd get underthrown by 3 or 4 yards. And he would just see him come back to the huddle just pissed off. He even got some verbal fights and that shot on the sideline. Like, they lost to Oakland, shot that pick in the end zone to end the game. He was just tired of losing. I think what happened to him is that the free agency came and went, the draft came and went. He looked at the depth chart. He saw Ryan Fitzpatrick, Steve Keenum, Tom Savage. He saw he's 33 years old and said, well, this sucks. I don't know if I want to go through this again and play with a bunch of inconsistent, frustrating quarterbacks on a team that might only win 6 or 7 games. I mean, he's 33. He wants to win a title. Everybody in the league does. And he sees that. And he sees his window coming to a close. And then, he also saw the draft and they failed to take a quarterback that was going to be good too. And so I think he wanted to go forward and play on a team that can actually win, a team that can compete, a team with a quarterback who's actually any good. But once he's met with O'Brien in the practice, I think it's going to be a non-issue going forward. He possibly could still get traded by the trade deadline if the cap room works out and someone offers a first or second round pick for him. Maybe he could get traded. I assume he's going to still invest his career in Houston. The thing about Arian Foster, I don't think Arian Foster is really upset at all about the team or the coaching staff or the front office or anything like that. I think he's just tired of the grind of the season, all the stupid questions he gets asked every day by reporters. He gets asked the same thing, like how's the offense coming together? How's the backfield? How do you like running in Bill O'Brien's new offense? He just gets asked the same questions over and over again. I think he's just tired of it, and he's kind of tired of the same process over and over again. And I think he's just more of a media thing than having anything to do with the coaching staff or anything like that.
All right, so heading into this weekend, what's the plan? There was one report by McLean from the Houston Chronicle who said that likely it's probably going to look like Andre Johnson, that Arian Foster and Jadeveon Clowney weren't likely going to play. Bill O'Brien said the next day that no one's been ruled out. What's the plan? Who's not going to play? How long are the starters going to play? And what can we expect to see in terms of players? Who will the fans be watching mostly from the Houston side?
I think the fans. I guess I can't speak for all. I'll speak for myself. But I think as far as what I'm looking forward to is really, I don't really care much about the players since they're going to play in the regular season. I care more to see kind of like ideas of what Cornell's team's going to be like, what O'Brien's passing attack's going to be like, and also what type of run plays they're going to run. If they're going to run more, man scheme things like power, trap, counter, or if they're going to keep running the zone like they have been for the past 6 years or so. But as far as the players go, I know last year Johnson didn't play very much. I think Watt even played one preseason game. I'm not assuming. I think if the most of the time in the first preseason game, the ones play 2 series and they sit down, and then that's it. And then the second week they play 4 series, and then the third week they play about 3 quarters to really get prepared, and then week 4 they don't play at all. And so I'm assuming we're going to see the same thing. I know Clowney's had that sports hernia surgery. I don't think he'll play. I don't think Foster will play. I can see Andre Johnson playing some just to kind of develop more chemistry with Fitzpatrick. But as far as who plays and who doesn't, we really won't have any idea until, I guess, Friday night or Saturday morning. But I think what's going to be interesting more is kind of idea what they're doing as far as scheme-wise. All
right. And in training camp, obviously, we see in the offseason, there tend to be players that stand out. Who are the young players, maybe the lesser-known players that Cardinals fans won't know? Who is standing out, or maybe the ones that are? Who is standing out in camp, and who do you expect to be the playmakers in a meaningless preseason game?
As far as from what I see, I look at the depth chart, and the biggest thing I've heard is on the defense side of the ball. I know right now they're having a battle for slot corner, and right now Brant Harris is penciled in to start there, and he sucks. And he's a second-round pick on a few years back. He's inconsistent. He commits too many penalties. He gets burned a lot, and he celebrates every time he does any little thing. He's annoying to watch. But they have this guy named Bouye, who right now is having a really good battle with him, and he's possibly going to be the starting slot corner. So he's going to be an interesting guy to watch. And then also, since Cushing isn't playing, we don't know exactly who's going to be the other inside linebacker next to him. It's going to be Brooks Reed, if it's going to be somebody else. But they have a guy named Tuggle, his last name. And from what I've heard as far as camp goes, he's had a really good camp so far, too, and should make the roster and should actually receive some playing time this year. And on the offensive side of the ball, maybe one guy you guys maybe not know, but we really don't have a slot receiver right now. Devere Posey was a wide receiver from Ohio State. They took 2 years back, and then they used a third-round pick on him. And, he tore his ACL against the Pats in the divisional championship in 2012. And last year he played a little bit here and there. I think this year he's actually getting a lot more reps, and they're giving him more of a workload, and they're actually giving him a chance to compete for that third receiver spot. And all I've heard, too, is good things about him as well. And he's staying late and catching a lot of passes. And so I think Posey might be an interesting guy to watch for. These are the guys who are actually getting most of the snaps. But I think Bouye, Tuggle, and Posey would be more the kind of lesser-known guys to be fun to watch for us. And Jadeveon Clowney fans kind of more lesser-known guys who may actually get some playing time this year for Houston.
All right, this is Arizona Cardinals fans. This is Matthew Weston on the phone with me talking Houston Texans. football as we listen to preview the game coming up and the type of things that Cardinals fans might expect to see on Saturday. Matt, anything else you'd like to say about the Texans? Any big hopes for the season? What is kind of the outlook? You told us probably about 9 wins. Can you see them competing for the AFC South title this year?
I think 9 may be possible with the weak schedule and just all the bad luck they had last year. I know everybody's listening to me talk and rise. All I talked about last year was, all the one-possession losses, the turnover differential, the Pythagorean wins, the plexiglass principle, all these things that people either like to hear about or they don't as far as advanced stats go for football. But they were all terrible for Houston last year. So they're going to be they'll have much better luck this year. So 9 wins is possible. I just don't see it happening with Fitzpatrick. I think they're going to win 6 by default. I think somewhere between 6 and 7 is what we're going to see this year. And they may have a chance to compete, but I think Indy wins the division. And then next year they'll go get their quarterback. We'll actually see him do some good things. But I do want to say one thing as far as the Cardinals goes. I like watching them play. I really love watching Calais Campbell play. I think he's like, it's like watching J.J. Watt, but just not as good.
Yeah, if it weren't for J.J. Watt, people would actually talk about Calais Campbell because he is quite the player. And in terms of skill, he's J.J. In terms of off-the-field personality, he's J.J. It's just a shame that Calais doesn't get more play nationally. Nothing against Watt because he is a fantastic, dominant player. But yes, Calais Campbell is a treat to cover. It's a treat to watch play. Big guy, big smile, big everything. Before we let you go, Matthew, let us know how can they get a hold of you on Twitter. Obviously, this is Matt Weston from Battle Red blog, the SB Nation Houston Texans blog. Tell us how they can follow you, get a hold of you on Twitter, bud.
Yeah, my Twitter is NBW987, and I'll be honest with you, Jess, I've done these podcasts, I've done some radio things. I'm not one Twitter follower from it. So if it happens, you'll be the first one. I don't know if it will or not, but if it happens, you'll be the first one. You'll have the opportunity to do that for me if one of you guys out there listening actually follows me. But again, it's NBW987, and I tweet, about football and all that stuff. And this should be a fun season. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, Matt, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it. You have a good one, and good luck on Saturday, man.
Yeah, you have fun watching it, too. It was nice talking to you, Jess.
All right, have a good one, sir.
All right, bye.
You've been listening to Revenge of the Birds. Keep the conversation going by visiting revengeofthebirds.com. Follow us on Twitter at Revenge of Birds. You can also find us on iTunes at facebook.com/revengeofthebirds.